What's a deeply unsettling fact? The entire universe outside our galaxy could have completely disappeared over 20,000 years ago, and we still wouldn't know it yet. Our view of the universe is actually what it looked like anywhere from thousands to billions of years ago, with no way to see what it actually looks like right now. Imagine if you looked out your front window and saw your yard as it was 6 months ago, neighbor's house across the street a year ago, and houses a block or two away as they were several years ago. Also off in the distance you see the glaciers from the last ice age. That's what it's like looking out at the universe. The 1961 atomic bombing accident of North Carolina. The US Air Force came dramatically close to detonating an atom bomb over North Carolina that would have been 260 times more powerful than the device that devastated Hiroshima. Two Mark 39 hydrogen bombs were accidentally dropped over Goldsboro, North Carolina on the 23rd of January 1961. The bombs fell to Earth after a B-52 bomber broke up in mid-air, and one of the devices behaved precisely as a nuclear weapon was designed to behave in warfare. Its parachute opened, its trigger mechanisms engaged, and only one low-voltage switch prevented untold carnage. Of the 4 safety mechanisms designed to prevent unintended detonation, 3 failed to operate properly. When the bomb hit the ground, a firing signal was sent to the nuclear core of the device, and it was only that final, highly vulnerable switch that averted calamity. I get goosebumps every time I read about it. In 1983, the world came closest to a full-scale nuclear war between Russia and the US. Back then, Russia's nuclear early warning system reported that a missile had been launched from the United States, followed by up to 5 more. Stanislav Petrov, the duty officer at the command center at that time, was tasked with observing the satellite early warning network and notifying his superiors of any impending nuclear missile attack against the Soviet Union. If notification was received from the early warning systems that inbound missiles had been detected, the Soviet Union's strategy was an immediate and compulsory nuclear counterattack against the United States. Petrov dismissed the warning as a false alarm. He deduced that a first strike nuclear attack by the United States was likely to involve hundreds of simultaneous missile launches in order to disable any Soviet means of a counterattack. His suspicion was confirmed when no missiles arrived at the proposed time of impact. Later, it was determined that the false alarms were caused by a rare alignment of sunlight on high-altitude clouds and the satellite's near orbits, an error later corrected by cross-referencing a geostationary satellite. So the only reason why civilization as we know it didn't cease to exist in 1983 was the level-headed behavior of a single man. If you are a certain distance from a nuclear explosion, you won't be killed immediately, but instead, you'll get third-degree burns throughout your entire body. This kills your nerves so fast that it's completely painless. We are alive at what the overwhelmingly vast majority of the universe will know as the extremely distant past, 13 billion years into something that could very well make a trillion years look like the blink of an eye. If the universe was a download, it would be another 80 billion years before we get to 1% of the amount of time it takes a very small star to go through its hydrogen. Yep, you and I are alive at the beginning, not the middle, not the end. We are the bacteria. The first firefighter killed responding to the 9/11 attacks was struck dead in the courtyard by a falling body. 2 people killed simultaneously, one on his way in, the other on their way out. There are a huge amount of illnesses that aren't curable or even treatable. We have this idea that we go to a doctor, they find out what's wrong with us, and then fix us. There are many illnesses that make doctors throw up their hands because they don't even know what is causing us to be unwell, and people are often ill for years or life. That if you have clothes in your wardrobe and food in your fridge, you're in the richest 20% of people in the world. Something so simple would categorize you above 80% of people in the world. After you die, everyone else's life just carries on. Your doctors and nurses, for example, will go home that evening to their partners/children, have dinner, maybe a beer or glass of wine, enjoy a TV show and go to bed, and you'll be dead. Top 10 disturbing horrible facts about World War II, the US, and the Nazis. 1. The pink triangle that the Nazis marked gay men with was not exclusively for gay men. In fact, the pink triangle did not signify gay at all, but rather a sex criminal. 60% were gay, that's true, but the other 40% were rapists, pedophiles, child pornographers, and those who committed bestiality. The US Armed Forces didn't feel it would be politically sound if they were to release a camp full of sex offenders into the defeated nation of Germany unchecked. Thus their concentration camps remained unliberated, where many died without assistance. 2. Despite all the evil that the Nazis did, the United States did sneak out a few Nazi scientists for their own benefit, most of which were rocket scientists who developed the technology which eventually got us to the moon. So the United States would never have got to the moon if it went for a few SS officers, 1,600 to be exact. 3. There were American men born in America who were in the German SS. There was a movement called Volksdeutsch where Hitler commanded all true Aryans to return to the fatherland. Many American-born sons of German immigrants were returned to Germany to fight for the Nazi Party. 4. Many Czech soldiers were on the shores of Normandy forced to fight in German uniforms, so it would be less likely for a German to be killed. 5. Many Nazi soldiers were from the Hitler Youth and some killed in battle were no older than 16. The youngest killed as a combatant was 13 years old. 6. It was difficult for the Americans to take the Waffen-SS prisoner because of the soldiers' hatred for them. Oftentimes they would simply execute them as opposed to taking them prisoner. They did not feel the same about the German army who, if taken prisoner, was treated well. The POW camp was often referred to as the Fritz Ritz. 7. A banned joke from Nazi Germany. Question. Hitler is driving south to an intersection with a stop sign. Coming to the same intersection driving north is Joseph Goebbels, driving west is Rudolf Hess, and driving east is Martin Bormann. They all missed their stop signs and crash into each other all the same time. Whose fault is the accident? Answer. The Jews. 8. The Germans' view of genetics was actually a United States view of genetics recorded in a book called The War Against the Weak. 9. The United States supported the Nazi Party until 1939 because they were staunchly anti-communist, as were we. They also believed in genetic purification, which we also did. 10. Franklin Delano Roosevelt wanted to go to war with Germany, Italy and Japan as early as 1937 as he saw a growing threat stretching across Europe and Eastern Asia. Uneager to enter another world war, he suggested that the US do a preemptive strike to stop Hitler and Mussolini in their tracks. He also wanted to increase his support for China, which would undermine the Japanese invasion of Nanking. He was overruled by Congress and Congress passed several neutrality acts to prevent it. I wouldn't call it deeply unsettling, but I'm disturbed by the fact that I only get a small amount of time to do stuff I think is worthwhile and figure out how this ant farm we live in works, but every day I have to lie down and step outside existence for 6 to 8 hours. The world keeps going, I keep getting older, and yes, my brain is still processing things while I sleep, but I feel that it is a massive waste of time. If I don't sleep, then my mental and physical health start to decline. The process of falling asleep and waking up also disturbs the project or train of thought that was underway during the day, requiring even more time to get back on track. Meanwhile, dolphins are out there staying up 24/7, which is why they are smarter than us and will be leaving the planet first. Sometimes I wonder just how close I've come to being killed over the years. For example, a few years back I was leaving a friend's house party and was about to head out the door when I realized I couldn't find my keys. Took about 3 or 4 minutes to find before I went on my way. Fast forward just a few miles down the road, there is a huge pile up of cars and wreckage with no cops or ambulance on the scene yet. Once I got out and went to talk to some involved and help out, they mentioned that the crash happened only a few minutes ago. Really makes you think. A dead body moves a lot and makes noises because of gas and air buildups. They fart, they burp, they clear their throats, they sigh and moan. They twitch, they roll their heads and shoulders. They open their eyes and their limbs twitch. This can happen a couple of days after death has occurred. I work at the Department of Pathology in a college. If mine was slapped on the butt by a corpse a couple of weeks ago. Everything that you see, hear, taste, smell, and touch is a hallucination. The things literally exist, but the way you perceive them is filtered through parts of your brain that filter and edit your perceptions in order to maintain continuity. That doesn't sound so bad, but you don't have control of those mechanisms. Your brain is editing things out right now without you noticing. The blind spot in your vision is edited out. The millions of rapid eye movements you make every day all day long are edited out. The sound of your heart beating and the blood moving through your veins, all just edited out. So really the difference between you and a person suffering from what we generally mean when we say hallucinations, voices in their heads, seeing things that aren't there, is that you have other people around who corroborate them. If you were completely alone, you'd have no way to tell, and the longer you were alone, the worse you'd likely become at it.